Within all life dwells a living essence, and this essence is the key to the most powerful magic imaginable. Do we use that essence to preserve the natural world, or devote life's power to our own mighty ends? Welcome back, travelers, to Legendary Lore, and today we're talking about Joe's college. Joe, what college are you a part of?
I am part of the Witherbloom College, College of Life and Death.
Ah, yes, of course, the best of the best and the worst of the worst. The worst of the best and the best of the worst. That's it is. So, what's important to note about the Black-Green College is that their whole deal is life and death. I mean, it's kind of like the Golgari. It's distinct enough, I think is the best way to put it. Because with Golgari, they found the overlap where life and death are a cycle kind of deal. But in the case of Witherbloom, they look at it as a dichotomy. Yes, they're interconnected, because obviously that's how green and black are going to view it. But what is more important and what is more useful is what is the important thing. For instance, we're going to go ahead and look at the black Witherbloom students and what they would do with their magic. So their whole deal is using the life energy from other things, such as pests, to create more powerful witchcraft, like ritualist, bleed doctors, pest catchers, dissectors, and vein witches. And their whole deal is literally just little creatures, squish, squish, take out soul, use for their spells. Other things are Banelocks and Cauldron Weirds, which their whole idea is using potions and brews, using like little different ways of crafting new spells, specifically like to curse people or stuff like that. Then you have Bloodstirrers, Skullmancers, Dreadbones, and other kinds of necromancers in general that just use the living dead, basically. They like Liliana, she'd be teaching people how to be just Skullmancers and Dreadbones. And then of course you have the green side, and instead of using life and killing it and using death magic, theirs is more about growing things and encouraging blossoming and stuff like that. Their whole deal is they have
buttercupping.
Yes, and they have herbalists, boon witches, leaf binders, and their whole idea is using medicinal herbs, and they soothe wounds, they empower other creatures, and like basically the opposite of the ones that were making those poisons. They want to make medicines. Then you have earth crouchers, mud masks, and bayou druids, who are basically able to just shove their face into the ground and like absorb all the information they need to. And
I just imagine Bayou Druids is the ones, like that emote in Fortnite where you just get back in the rocking chair and do your banjo.
Yes, because they're on the bayou.
Yeah.
Nice. But no, because the entirety of the Witherbloom campus is not necessarily all of it, but the majority of it is like there's a chunk called the Sedgemoor, which is a bog. And there's a ton of pests and other creatures that live there, zombie crocodiles, stuff like that. And so these druids and these mud masks, they can reach into the earth and kind of thing and sense where the life is. Then you have bow callers, trudge gardeners, and pest wardens. And their whole idea is working with the wildlife that live in those areas to make them like stronger or just make more of them. It's like a pest warden would breed pests, that kind of thing.
Pokemon breeder.
Now, we've talked about both the black and the green, how they use pests to their advantage. What is a pest, Joe?
A pest it looks like anything basically, but it gives you one life when it dies.
Yes, they kind of look like little salamander things or caterpillars. And the whole idea is that they have, despite being very small and very useless, I guess you could say, they also have a ton of life energy inside of them. Like an inordinate amount of life is trapped inside their tiny little fragile bodies. And so
there's that one creature that gives, I think it's one of the legendaries we're going to talk about, but it gives a bonus to rats,
yes, all the pests,
things that are considered pests, and then literal pest, which is a creature type now.
Yes, exactly. We will get to Blex Luthor. So what's interesting is that Witherbloom students will take these things as pets, right, and like carry them around, but they're also using them as batteries, because even though you're using the life essence, you don't need to kill the creature to do that. So it's kind of like giving blood, or I guess more like taking blood. They just suck out some of the soul of the creature and use that to power up their spell, and then they'll just kind of like, the creature will be like and they're like, good pest, good, and they're like
Hi, guy. I know what you are now.
Yeah, because
my
you sucked the
pest.
soul out of your cat.
Just like
Now,
wake up in the morning, grab my cat, pet him a little bit. Okay, now I'm awake. Go away.
we talked about the 3 different like big areas, right? So the other 2 had halls. So they had actual like halls that people could go into, and they had their own like uses. This place has the Sedgemoor first. Everyone else had the hall first. They have the Sedgemoor, which is the giant swamp that is encompasses the Witherbloom campus that I was talking about. It's got undead animals like crocodiles. It's got bats. It's got bayou striders. They're called trudges. Bogroths, which are basically like these giant dog beasts. Spiders, fungus, all that stuff. And because of how wild the area is, it's great for finding stuff for your potions, which is why it's so like integral to it. Then you have the Widdershins Hall, or Widershines, and the whole idea is that this is a mansion, and it looks like it was grown out of the Sedgemoor, and it's a network of just these wooden pods with walkways that are planked, and it leads out like it's just winding, and it's got like a little inner chamber where the professors bring their students for class. And that's like the whole idea, is that's the Widershins Hall. Then you have the detention bog. Just because you're a Civil Quill or a Prismari or a Lorehold or a Quandrix does not mean that you are above getting punished. If you're a student, you can get sent to the detention bog, which is basically just a segment adjacent to the Sedgemoor that is extremely unpleasant, with a whole bunch of creatures that you don't want to have to deal with. The way they send you there to the detention bog is that they, like on your wrist, they will slap a rune onto your wrist so that you're forced to go to the bog for a certain amount of time. And if you try to leave, your magic will forcibly pull you back into the thing with additional time. So it's detention. It's detention with a magic base, I guess.
That's amazing.
It's super cool. I love the idea behind it. It sounds super useful because no one wants to go there. But we'll get to that story where somebody does wind up there. But until then, we're going to talk about the characters. And as before, we will start off with the deans.
The deans.
So I'm a little upset. I'll explain why I'm upset after I talk about the first dean. You have Dean Valentin, the Dean of the Vein, which, I mean, that just has a really nice ring to it. And the whole idea is that they're a really old vampire who loves blood, specifically bayou blood. If you bring them some like animals from the bayou, they'll just eat them. What's interesting though is that he's a sangromancer, obviously vampire. A lot of them tend to be sangromancers. Anything that they like suck the blood out of will give them visions of about the creature or place that they just suck the blood out of. And like obviously he has no problems with eating these animals. But because of how, I guess, cavalier he is about killing a bunch of animals for his own benefit, that kind of makes his partner, Lizette, the Green Dean, a little uncomfortable.
Green
but
Dean.
I mean, even though but the thing is that he learns a ton about this stuff. So let's talk about Lizette. Now, Joe, if he's the black one, and he's Dean of the Vein, what would the green one be?
Dean of the Blood Vessel?
The green one, Joe.
You're saying this like I should be relating it to Vein.
Vine. Vein and Vine. It's so obvious. It fits so perfectly. It's literally just switching 2 letters in the... It doesn't make any sense for her to be Dean of the Root. She's the Dean of the Root, Joe. Like, I get it. The root is like a life-giving tendril that is attached to the
organism. It is like
organism.
The vein of the tree, yeah.
Yeah. But if they wanted to do that, she'd be the dean of the phylum or the xylem, because that's what the actual veins of a tree are. But like, no.
The dean of the mitochondria.
The dean of the cell wall. The point is, we're going to leave my gripe there on the floor where it belongs, in the trash. I don't know why my trash is on the floor. I'm littering, and Lizette would not like that. Lizette is a nature witch, which would be a human druid. And her whole deal is that she's a really good healer. And she actually was able to cure Valimachus Lorehold of a secret illness that he had using her abilities.
That's amazing.
The giant red-white dragon she was able to like save their life basically. And she speaks very softly in strange and colorful metaphors. So that's her whole deal. She instills in her students a respect for all living things. She wants them to treat all the living things with respect and acknowledge like their use and their value to the world and to the ecosystem. And she uses Valentin's terrible knowledge to her benefit to try and help future lives, even though she hates the fact that Valentin just sucks things dry to kill them. And speaking of sucking things dry, we have our student, the tea drinking mage, Dina.
Dina.
Joe, how do you feel about Dina?
I love Dina. She's the best character. She's just amazing.
My favorite thing is that she just drinks tea, and that's her thing. Is she drinks tea. That's great.
My favorite thing is that she almost kills somebody to do to them. We'll get to that in a story, but yeah, if you're curious about that, keep watching. She almost kills somebody. That way she can do them. So
there will be a Dina story specifically about Dina. So then we have one of the teachers, Willowdesk. And I mean, other than being a terrible commander, her whole deal is that she helped a bunch of students that got lost in the woods and protected them from the hungry bog groths, which are those things we mentioned earlier. And then she was allowed to be a teacher because of how like helpful she was and how good she was at herb gathering and like stuff like that. And it's like, wow, okay, sure. That's one way to get a job, is just to save some students' lives and teach them how they're supposed to gather herbs properly. It's pretty cool. And she always has tea brewing in a pot on your office. So if you ever just want to go talk to a teacher who wants to tell you everything she can about medicinal herbs, pest cultivation, and dissection, and you want tea, you just go to her, and you got a cuppa just waiting for you.
That does sound like the best place to be. I wish she actually fit in the commander deck.
I mean, she's not terrible. She's just really bad. But more importantly, we have Blex. Now, Blex is the vexing pest, and it's hilarious that he exists. The whole thing is that you have little pests, right? And these little pests, they get eventually, their entirety of their life force is entirely consumed for a spell, and then they die, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, Blex was in one of these little like boxes, enclosure tank things, and kept watching all the other pests die. And Blex started to realize, I'm going to die eventually. And so what Blex started doing was taking some of the insects it was being fed and hiding them, like putting them in its own little container that it had, and waited for a student to leave the thing open enough, and then they threw all the insects at the students when they tried to take them and kill them, and then ran away. Blex over time then became huge, which is why it is a legendary pest. It's just a pest that never got killed, which is why it's
awesome.
Yes, and instead of being a 0 costing token, it's a 3 mana 3/2, and instead of gaining you 1 life when it dies, it gains you 4, because it's just a big pest. It's a massive pest. And then it turns all other pests, bats, insects, snakes, and spiders even bigger, because they're just other kinds of pests. It says that new Witherbloom students are sent into to try and catch a escaped pest and retrieve it. And it's like, that's how they haze Witherbloom students, like the new ones. It's just like, hey, go get this pest that got away. And it's in this general area. So like, usually they're just on a wild goose chase and never find him. But some students do find Blex and they're like, peace, I'm out. I'm not messing with that thing, because it's huge. So, and I mean, that's kind of what the opposite side of Blex is. The black spell that it plays is all about searching for things, and you take damage because you're going through the bog trying to find Blex. These are the next two after this one are not professors, but they are faculty, and they're great in their own right. So let's talk about Tivash real quick. Tivash, the Gloom Summoner. Basically, Tivash will immediately start teaching their students about how to manipulate life and death. Some people think that he might be kind of evil because he just like immediately just jumps into it and is like, so this is how you choke the life out of a pest, and so you can keep some of the life energy inside of there for when you need its corpse to reanimate, kind of thing. It's like, it's questionable that you're teaching kids all this stuff, but okay, yeah, sure. And so
it's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Half of them are just like, are we supposed to be learning this right at the gate? And it's like, okay, we're jumping right into it. Cool.
I mean, if you look at the card, it says at the beginning of your end step, if you gained a life this turn, you may pay X, where X is the amount of life you gained. If you do, create an XX demon. So, kind of on the dark side. Do you want to summon demons with all the life you just gained? That's up to you. And then we get to Groundskeeper Yodora. Yodora is the head groundskeeper and unofficial undertaker of Strixhaven. So basically, if students and graduates that if they die and they're like, you know what, I want to go back to the university and I want to give everything I can to it, and when I die, bury me here because I love this place. Yedora will then take their soul, take them who just died, and then return them to be part of the forest, which is Yedora. A beautiful illustration of their ability, which is whenever another non-token creature you control dies, return to the battlefield face down as a forest. So it literally just plants a corpse and turns it into a tree. I love it.
I love it.
And then, of course, we have the ultimate commander, Guillaume. Master Chef. He's a troll, and he's a fantastic chef. He combines local ingredients with flavors from his wild fern bosk homeland into an ever-changing menu of new delicacies. And literally, people will go through the Sedgemoor. People that aren't even from the Witherbloom campus, like Silverquill, Prismari, all of them, they'll go through the Sedgemoor just to get his food. And the biggest complaint is that he gives them too much food. This is the Gordon Ramsay of magic.
I love him.
He's a master chef. He will make food for anyone that comes in. That's his ability. At the beginning of your end step, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of non-token creatures you had enter the battlefield this turn.
It's so cool.
So, like, somebody shows up in his kitchen, food for you. Somebody else shows up, food for you. And then if they eat the food, they become indestructible for the turn, but they have to tap because they're too busy eating. I love the design behind his character. They also use his ability to kind of show the regeneration effect of trolls. It's just a very well-crafted card. And I wish there were more food-based cards to make a really dedicated food deck, because I love the idea behind him.
There's that Feasting Troll King from
Yes, there's several good cards, but they're all from Eldraine, and it's a very small pool of cards to make. You can't make like a dedicated, like you can make a dedicated Planeswalker deck with like 50 Planeswalkers if you want to, but there's a limited amount of green and black foods cards. I think there's about 20 you could use, and that's not quite enough to make it like a prominent role kind of deal. If you can get past the fact that they use the souls of tiny little defenseless creatures, this could be the school for you. They're very laid back. They're very, like, I guess you could say, accepting. They don't really have any kind of like competitive thing to them. They just kind of sit there and drink some tea.
It's literally where I belong.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it. I resonated with them. I love dryads. I've always wanted a dryad theme too in Magic, because what is it in Pokemon? My first card trade with Ricky was that Roserade we talked about in Blazing Emerald.
Yes.
I've always loved plant-based stuff. In a Vanguard, another card game I got Ricky into, I play plants. So just like, I don't have anything plant-based in Magic. Oh, Witherbloom. Okay, I'll look at it.
Yeah, and I mean it's cool. It's a very
took the quiz. I'm Witherbloom. Ricky, why am I Witherbloom? And Ricky explained everything to me. Just like he's like, you're Witherbloom. I am that. I love them.
And you can just a real quick last note. Witherbloom, kind of like how if you looked at Silverquill, it was like the English department, and Prismari was the art department. This is kind of like the biology department, the science division, I guess you could say.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like for Witherbloom, leave a dislike for Silverquill, but actually don't do that. Change it to a like, because we need your like on the videos. And go ahead and comment what's your favorite legendary from Witherbloom is, and what dish you would get from Guillaume, Master Chef. And we'll see you guys next time.